Hell yeah! We are now 1 minute closer to the release of Spider-Man No Way Home.
I grew up with the Tobey Maguire films, and I loved the Andrew Garfield films as they came out, and still decently enjoy them. When The Amazing Spider-Man released in 2012, I thought it was an MCU film, and I was excited to see him in an Avengers movie. Of course, I was a dumb kid and didn't realize these took place in different universes until 2014 or so. I remember seeing Spider-Man in the Civil War trailer and being so excited to finally see him interact with the Avengers. And even though it was a different Spider-Man, I still greatly enjoyed it. But I did miss seeing both Tobey and Andrew in action.
But now, in just 1 week, it's happening. No Way Home looks really solid, especially compared to everything else we've gotten this year for the MCU.
WandaVision was a nice fresh take on the MCU until the finale, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a bit too standard MCU for me. It was still good, but it just feels very MCU. I haven't seen Loki, I haven't seen What If. I saw Black Widow, I've seen it twice, and it's alright, but has atrocious editing and poorly written characters. And I have yet to see Eternals and Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi seemed interesting. I really enjoyed the cultural aspects of Black Panther, and I was hoping Shang-Chi would be the same. But the trailers didn't paint it in a very good light. And Eternals, that just looks bad. And on top of it all, we've gotten so much Marvel content this year. And it's to the point where I'm just burned out. The excitement of a new Marvel thing has worn off for me. Even if it was something new, in the past, a new Marvel thing was all the excitement I needed. Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man were niche parts of Marvel, but they were one of at most 3 new Marvel entries per year. Here, I just straight up don't care. But No Way Home has earned my excitement, bringing back all these villains in the other 2 Spider-Man. And on top of that, the last Marvel thing I saw was Black Widow back in July, so I'm willing to accept new Marvel content, and not just that, I'm beyond excited.
So, to pass the time and kind of celebrate the film's release, we're going to be taking a look at Spider-Man games. But not just any Spider-Man games, handheld Spider-Man games. Yes, welcome back to Gaming on the Go, the series where I take a look at the portable version of a game or game series and tell you if you should take it on the go, or just wait until you get home to play the damn game. For most of these games, I actually won't be comparing them to their console versions. Instead, I'll be judging them based on whether I think they're a good portable Spider-Man game or not. So let's begin with what the hell?
Spider-Man 3 is one of the 2 most controversial Spider-Man movies. I kinda like it, but who cares because this is the game. Why does this exist? The Game Boy Advance was a successor of the Game Boy Color and was released in 2001. It had a seemingly short lifespan as the Game Boy Advance's successor, the Nintendo DS, was released in 2004. But for some reason, games were still released for the Game Boy Advance until 2008. This is a movie tie-in game for one of the biggest movies in 2007, and also had a DS version. This thing's existence is pointless!
Now I know this can be pretty tricky, but try to imagine this. A better version of Mother 3 on the DS. I know, it's pretty hard to imagine, but imagine that. Well, then what would be the point of the Game Boy Advance version? I mean, maybe if you didn't have a DS by 2007, but by then the DS was 3 years old, it costed $130, and its total lifetime sales are over 150 million. Who didn't have a DS in 2007 who wanted one? So the existence of this makes no sense. It's still a pretty good game though.
It's a 2D side-scroller. Of course, 2D side-scrollers were the Game Boy Advance's bread and butter. You got plenty of kicks and punches and stuff, you can climb walls, shoot webs, it's neat. The story loosely follows the film. Loosely as in, you do fight Sandman and the new Goblin and Venom, but it also does its own thing, having you fight Electro and raid Kingpin's mansion. This is probably my favorite level of the game. Exploring Kingpin's mansion, sneaking around, it's pretty fun. Some of the other missions include saving civilians from fires, chasing a villain on a vehicle, or just a straight up boss fight. You also get levels where something is rising and you can't let it touch you or you die. It's honestly a really decent game, but why does it exist?
Now let's jump up a generation to the DS.
Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Shattered Dimensions is straight up my favorite Spider-Man game. You fight a bunch of iconic Spidey villains as 4 different types of Spider-Man. This is where the Spider-Man multiverse idea started, I swear. Each version of Spider-Man was different. Amazing was your standard Spider-Man, Ultimate was the beat-em-up type where you just plow through huge crowds of enemies, 2099 had these free-falling diving sections, and Noir had stealth mechanics and stuff. Not to mention, each Spider-Man had a unique art style. Amazing looks straight out of a comic book, Ultimate looks all industrial, 2099 has all these vibrant neon colors and a futuristic art style, and Noir has dark shadow-filled visuals. It's a brilliant game, and the DS version is one of my favorite DS games. What? Shattered Dimensions on DS is basically a Spider-Man Metroidvania. The premise is similar to the console version, where you have to stop Mysterio from destroying the world and stuff. Here though, you fight different villains most of the time, and the villains who are in the console versions are in a different dimension. For example, Electro and Amazing, Vulture and 2099. Unfortunately, there's only 3 Spider-Man and 6 villains, not counting Mysterio. Yeah, Ultimate is left out here, but is in an alternate costume for Amazing. But something they add to these characters are downsides. At first, Noir can't climb walls, he has to learn this power later in the game. However, in turn, they all have an ability that one of the others doesn't have at first. Noir has this revealing ability, 2099 can't use webs but can glide, and Amazing learns to glide and reveal things. Playing as each Spider-Man is fun, and once each Spider-Man learns all the abilities, holy, this game masters the Metroidvania 2D style. It's really fun to explore these locations, web sling around, crawl through vents, it's really damn good. And can we talk about the combat? Ooh, it's so fluent and fun. You got standard punches, you can charge up a punch, you can do a launching uppercut, you can do a launching uppercut and a punch, you can do the combo I've been doing this game since I first started years ago. Punch, 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 launching uppercut, jump, punch, 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 downward scissor kick. It's so damn fluent and it's so damn fun. When you learn a new ability, you're taken to this little room, usually with a dummy, and you can just wail on this guy. He's invincible, so you can just wail on him forever. It's so fun. Practice your combos to learn new ones. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. The game itself is really short. I played through this game multiple times, so I can breeze through this game in less than an hour and a half. And I can't imagine it taking a new player any longer than 3 hours to beat this game. So with the short length, I highly recommend this game hard. You can rip through it in an afternoon, and that's because it doesn't waste your time. It starts and it just keeps going, and it's fun all the way. The 3 main dimensions are all open, explorable little worlds, and the final dimension, Mysterio's, is a linear gauntlet that is a brilliant test of all the traversal skills in this game. To praise the game even further, it looks absolutely gorgeous for a DS game. While you move in a 2D space, the world doesn't look two-dimensional. The 3 worlds are also distinct and cool too. Amazing is mostly this giant underground factory, Noir is a museum and subway, and 2099 is just a sprawling futuristic metropolis. Honestly, this game is just so dang good. Not only is this a wonderful portable Spider-Man game, but a wonderful portable translation of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Once again, I recommend playing this game. It makes for a fun afternoon. Shattered Dimensions on the DS is a triumph. Instead of trying to cram Shattered Dimensions on a DS cart, they took the concepts and created something new with it. And boy, is it good.
Next up, we got Spider-Man Edge of Time on the DS. The Wii version holds a special place in my heart, as it was the first modern console game I played. This was my first modern video game experience, and I still treasure it to this very day. The DS version fucking sucks.
It's alright, it's not as bad as I remember it being, but it does have its flaws. To begin, though, the art style for cutscenes and stuff is good. The cinematics are all good and well done for the DS, but when you get into gameplay, I am so mixed on this. In one hand, Spider-Man looks colorful and cartoony, which fits the comics, but on the other hand, the animations just feel so flash gamey. The controls are surprisingly clunky, and controlling Spider-Man is just not fun. The combat just straight up sucks. The sound only hurts it more. The satisfying hits from Shattered Dimensions are gone. Once again, this is a Metroidvania, but this map is garbage. The majority of the world is inside, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but with all the walls and stuff, this map is so confusing and useless. I gotta say, the clunky controls really bother me quickly. It is such a clunk fest here. I wanna zip through the building like I could in Shattered Dimensions, but here, it's so slow and stiff. The backgrounds look good as you fight a bunch of cool and obscure Spider-Man villains. There's some decent things about this game, but it's held back with how stiff and clunky Spider-Man feels. I honestly couldn't be bothered to make much progress.
Well, that was not very good, but this last one to me holds a very special place in my heart too. The Amazing Spider-Man on the Nintendo DS.
The Amazing Spider-Man is a very mixed movie. Some don't like it since it's mostly a retelling of Spider-Man's origin story, now more bleak and boring, and some think it's alright. I think it's alright, but I also think it's mainly nostalgia. I was alive and kicking when Spider-Man 3 came out, but I was 2 months shy of being 2, which meant I obviously didn't see it in theaters. Now did I see Amazing Spider-Man in theaters? Summer 2012 was painful. I really wanted to see Amazing Spider-Man. I loved the Tobey Maguire trilogy so much, and I rewatched the trailer for Amazing Spider-Man so many times. I saw TV commercials all the time, marketing on Chips Ahoy, and an ad for The Amazing Spider-Man for the DS in one of these Boys Life magazines from 2012. I wanted to see the movie so bad, and I didn't until it came out on DVD. Regardless of that though, The Amazing Spider-Man for the Nintendo DS. For my 8th birthday, I received the Nintendo DS XL along with this game, and it was my only game for a week. I adored this game so much, but ever since I beat it that same summer, I've barely played it, since if I wanted to play a Spider-Man game on the DS, I would just play Shattered Dimensions. But 8 years later, how does this game hold up?
Surprisingly decent.
The Amazing Spider-Man took some steps to improve on Edge of Time, and I'd say it was a success. First off, the game structure has changed. Instead of being a Metroidvania, it's broken up into 15 levels. Honestly, I'm glad they did this. The levels are much easier to navigate and work your way through than Edge of Time's world. Spider-Man also feels less clunky, still not as smooth as Shattered Dimensions, but a lot better than Edge of Time. And this time, his design fits the level's art style as well. The cinematics again look cool, and the gameplay itself, while simple, is fun. This game can be a bit tricky, but apparently not too tricky seeing that I reached a 92% completion all the way back in 2013. So, The Amazing Spider-Man for the Nintendo DS, not the best handheld Spider-Man game, hell, not even the best Spider-Man game on the DS, but it's definitely fun enough. I don't strongly recommend it, but if you have some interest in it, go for it.
And those are 4 portable Spider-Man games. I think Spidey's got a pretty good representation on the handhelds, but before I wrap things up, I kinda wanna do a ranking of these. From worst to best, Edge of Time. So many problems with this game. Spider-Man's too cartoony and his actions look way too flash gamey. Controlling Spider-Man is clunky and these buildings are just not fun to explore. Next up, Spider-Man 3 for the Game Boy Advance. It's not a bad game, it's just nothing memorable. I do like the art style though, it's a positive. Next we have The Amazing Spider-Man on the DS. I'm honestly surprised by this one. My memory really didn't paint this game in a good light. But the structure and how Spider-Man controls is a huge improvement from Edge of Time. And finally, Shattered Dimensions. All 3 Spider-Man control smoothly, the worlds are fun to explore, and in general, it's a really fun Metroidvania. The combat is fantastic and the game is short in the best way possible. But oh my gosh, what is up with Edge of Time? How do you go from Shattered Dimensions to this? Oh, and of course it's made by Activision. They make bad games for breakfast. What the hell? What does that say? Activision knockout gas ghosts? Great. Where am I?
In the worst place imaginable.
Ah! Who are you?
I am Noisivitca, the true creator of Activision.
Noisivitca. That's Activision. Backwards.
Perhaps you aren't as stupid as you look.
Alright, Noisivitca. Why am I here?
Isn't it obvious? You whine about a game.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have made a bad game.
Shut up, kid.
Wait. I whined about your game, and you kidnapped me, while your company has done much worse things.
I said shut up, kid.
Pokemon! Thanks for saving me, Spider-Man. Can you untie me? I want to go home.
Well, that was definitely a trip. I mean, who knew Activision was named after a demon? Oh, hey, I got an email. Huh, security footage. Let's check it out. Was this edited by Sony?